Good morning and welcome to KCPS Homeroom. I'm Justin Robinson. Today is Real World Friday. Later on the show, we'll have a couple of incredible interviews with former students in our Life After segments. But first up, let's get ready to learn in our cooking class.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Manual Career Technical Center. So I'm going to follow Chef Tom and keep with the pasta thing. Chef Tom made a very nice, delicious looking and tasting, I had some off camera, macaroni and cheese. So I'm going to go with making a very simple, very delicious, very tasty, a very inexpensive pasta Alfredo. All right, so the first thing we're going to start with is the garlic bread. I have here some Texas toast. Texas toast is mainly used for French toast. It's just a simple white sliced bread, but it's a little bit thicker than your normal sandwich bread. You can use your sandwich bread. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy French or Texas toast. You can also buy a French baguette or any kind of loaf bread to make your garlic bread on. All right, so this mixture here is just some melted butter, some oregano, and fresh garlic. If you don't have fresh garlic, please feel free to use granulated garlic or powdered garlic. You're going to get the same flavor profile that you're looking for. And we have mozzarella cheese. Real simple. This is a fun project that you can get the kids involved with. And we're just going to melt our butter and garlic and oregano. I'm just going to spoon it onto your bread. Again, perfect job for the kids. And I also added just a pinch of salt in my mixture as well, just to give it that little extra flavor. All right, we got one more. Be as generous as you like with this. You can put a little bit on, you can put a lot on, that's up to you. You can do it with cheese or without. Again, I have mozzarella here, but this is what I had on hand. If you have Parmesan, use that. If you have cheddar, use that. There's no wrong cheese to use. Use your favorite cheese. So I'm going to do 2 with and 2 without cheese. I'm going to get these in the oven, let these cook while we prepare a pasta. All right, here we go. There's our garlic bread. In 2-3 minutes in a hot oven, 350 degrees. And this is what we got. Again, really simple, really quick, and it's going to be very good. So just going to move this out the way for now. And we're going to get started on our pasta Alfredo. So typically, Alfredo goes with the fettuccine pasta. I don't really like fettuccine. I like curly pastas. They just hold the sauce better. So I'm going to use a curly macaroni. Right. Again, use the pasta you have at hand. Don't feel you have to go out and buy any one particular pasta or any other particular ingredient. Just kind of use what you have. This is a great way to use leftovers. If you have a little bit of chicken left over, a little bit of broccoli, different vegetables, it will go perfect with your pasta. So today we had some leftover baked chicken breasts. We have some fresh broccoli. Again, we have our curly macaroni. Have a little bit of fresh garlic, some mushrooms, some sauteed onions, and our Parmesan cheese, which is going to help thicken our sauce. So let's talk about pasta for a second. As Chef Tom mentioned, when you're cooking your pasta, you want to make sure that your water is at a full boil. Right? Make sure it's a rolling boil. Make sure it's nice and hot. A little bit of salt in the water. Again, as that pasta cooks, you want to give your pasta a little bit of flavor as well. That way, when you're eating your pasta dish, every bite is going to be flavorful. All right, so we have our pasta that's already cooked, and we're going to get started to assemble our pasta. I have a little bit of our garlic butter left over from the garlic bread. We're going to use this because we don't want it to go to waste. But I'm also going to use a little bit of olive oil or salad oil, whatever you have on hand. So again, we're going to use up our leftovers so nothing goes to waste. So we definitely want some chicken in there. I'm going to add my garlic after a couple of ingredients. If you put your garlic directly into the hot pan, it's going to burn instantly. So by adding some ingredients ahead of time, it's going to cool down the pan a little bit, and the garlic can kind of sit on top of that food so that it doesn't burn. All right, we're going to do a little bit of broccoli, just so that we can say we had some vegetables. We'll do all veggies. Do a little bit of mushrooms. Again, use your favorite vegetables. Use what's left over. Frozen vegetables, they work just as well. I would just recommend defrosting them before you use them. So if you have frozen broccoli, that's fine. All right, so we're just going to let that cook for a few minutes. So remember, everything is already cooked because we're using our leftovers from the day before. So we just want to get this really hot. We don't have to worry about the chicken being undercooked. It's already cooked. It's safe to eat. So we're pretty much just heating it up. So again, this is just a really simple pasta Alfredo. You won't believe how simple it is to make it. You go to a restaurant, you see it on the menu. It's going to cost you anywhere from $14 and up, especially if it has meat in it or seafood. It's going to get up into the $20 range. So I'm going to show you a real simple way. That way you can have this dish at home for a quarter of the price. All right, so everything is getting hot. We have our garlic in there. Again, I added the garlic towards the end so that it wouldn't burn. Once that gets nice and hot, we're going to add some heavy cream. So we want to make sure that we have heavy cream or whipping cream. Any other dairy product is not going to work. We don't want half and half. We don't want milk. It has to be heavy cream. Right. Heavy cream has a higher fat content, and we want that fat because that's actually what's going to hold the sauce together as it cooks. So just want to let that go to a rolling boil. And as this cooks, it's going to start to thicken. The water from the heavy cream is going to evaporate, and it's going to cause the sauce to thicken. Now notice I didn't add any additional salt or pepper to this because again we're using leftovers. So the food was seasoned the day before when we made it. So we shouldn't need too much more salt in here just to kind of keep down on the sodium and make it a little bit more nutritious. All right. So now that we got a nice rolling boil, we'll give that like another 30 seconds. Again, it's going to continue to thicken. Right, so again, as this is boiling, the water is evaporating and it's actually causing our sauce to thicken. So you can kind of see how that has some cling to it. That's about where we want it. So at this point, we're going to add our pasta. So it's still a little bit runny, and that's okay. Again, it's going to continue to thick. It's going to continue to thicken as it's cooking. Then at this point, we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. So this is where it officially becomes Alfredo. So traditionally, Alfredo is garlic, heavy cream. Sometimes you do a little bit of white wine with Parmesan cheese. So as you can see, take a look at the sauce, and as it continues to cook, especially now that we have the cheese in there, it's going to continue to thicken. So we'll do a little bit more cheese. Then at this point, I'm just going to turn the heat off because it's done. It's real quick, real simple. Now, depending on how you like your pasta, I like my pasta more wet. I like to have extra sauce in there, especially if I'm having garlic bread with it. So you can see there's still plenty of sauce in there. If you like a drier pasta, then cook it a little bit longer so that some of that sauce kind of evaporates and thickens up. But this is perfect for me, but I want you to cook it the way that you want it. A little bit of sauce in there, just right. So we're going to plate this up. All right, so now our pasta is just right. It's ready to eat. So our last step is just to plate it up. We'll get rid of that. We have a little dish. Again, great family dish. You can even individually customize this per your family members. Again, if you want to set it up kind of this way where you have, different leftovers, chicken, it goes great with sausage. There's no wrong thing that you can put in this, right? It's just what you want and kind of what you have laying around that needs to be used. And this is our pasta Alfredo. I'm going to hit it with a little bit more Parmesan cheese, maybe a little bit of parsley for some color. And last but not least, we have our garlic bread. And that is our pasta Alfredo. All right, thanks for tuning in and enjoy.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to another fun episode of KCPS Homeroom on 38th Spot here. We've been doing some episodes throughout the season where we talk to students that I have had in the past, and mostly in the creative writing department at Paseo Academy. And what's been fun is, as we've been asked to do this show again, I've been experimenting with who else we might know that came from our school district that's out there in our world today, and if they would be interested. So if you know people also that fit that characteristic and would like to come on here and talk, then that's exactly what we're going to continue with. So today I'm joined by a wonderful person and poet and playwright and all-around artist. And again, she comes from KCPS. And so she was recommended to me by a great close co-worker friend, Andrea Cook. And I'm just going to let Miss Clay here tell you a little bit about herself and kind of her story as she came from our schools, and which one in particular. Okay, so
Absolutely.
take it away, Miss Clay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris. Yeah, so I'm from Kansas City, born and raised. My elementary school was Mary Harmon Weeks, and I went there in through third grade. And since we're talking about poetry and words, that's definitely where it started. Absolutely. I was the student who didn't really like to go to gym because I couldn't climb those ropes. And back then they had ropes and poles to climb, and I wasn't good at that, and I wasn't the fastest. So when it was time, the days to go to the library and go to music, I loved those two things. But definitely that is where, wow, I just, something about storytelling really started clicking in. And then I was back, I don't know if they still have it now, but back then they had a gifted and talented program. And then I was bussed off and went to Cordy and to Three Trails Elementary. And that's where I met Andrea Cook. I've been knowing her since fourth grade at Meservey Elementary. So I've been knowing her for years. And elementary, my school was Lincoln Junior and Lincoln Senior. So I don't think they have, I know they don't have Lincoln Junior now, it's just all in one building, but it used to be across the street, the building across the street. And then that was 7th and 8th, and then you just came across and went to Lincoln. And when I got into Lincoln, I just, theater was my thing. Theater and writing and acting, that became it for me. And I would compete in the drama competitions that Kansas City Public Schools would have. And I'm not going to toot my horn. You can just find my record somewhere. I was killing them back then.
Yeah.
Killing it. No,
Awesome.
no, for real. I was dramatic monologue, and my coach was the amazing Carolyn James Volsman. She's retired now, but she was an amazing drama coach who in high school introduced me to people that she knew would eventually cultivate who I am. as an artist, as a Black woman artist. And I remember one book that she told me, when you get older, you have to read this book. You won't understand it now, but read it when you get older. And that was Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. And of course, had I read it in high school, I wouldn't have gotten it. But I just remember when I think of her planting that seed in my head, then I remember her talking about Gwendolyn Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
And she introduced me to Lorraine Hansberry. As a matter of fact, that was one of the monologues. That was actually the monologue that took me to state competitions my senior year.
Wow.
I took Lincoln Prep to state and
Nice.
dramatic monologue.
Isn't that fun?
And
Just to jump in there, Lincoln Prep is now actually split into 2 buildings again. So
really,
and last year they started that process, and so they have 2 full school buildings again side by side across Woodland, and a middle school and a high school. So it's kind of
okay.
come back to those days that
Wow.
you might have remembered. And it was like that when I went there myself, but it was starting to be over and they were closing the building next door. I actually worked as a summer school teacher in the middle school for 2 different summers in the computer lab. And so I got to see it at kind of at the end of its life when it really needed some repair. But that's fantastic. And we're going to hear a piece from you that you're going to do for us today. Before we do that, I mean, you're retracing this development. It's so amazing how the memory serves so well on the things that are so important, and you're telling it like it was yesterday, you know. And can you help us also put in perspective before you perform some of the places you have performed, so people are really truly ready to behold kind of the performance? I don't want to do it backwards and people say, darn, I wish I'd paid more attention.
Yeah. So after Lincoln, I went on to Grambling State University and majored in theater, and just continued to own my theater skills. Not really so much writing poetry at that time. I was more into theater, and I got into playwriting, but I did understand the magic of prose. And when I wanted to write a play and it seemed short, then I would turn that play thought into a prose piece. And so I did continue to compete throughout college with prose poetry, but that is really where I began to meet Ntozake Shange and her poetry, and of course Maya and June Jordan. I was introduced to all those names. And Howard for film school, screenplay writing. Then I moved to Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is really where I began to make my name as a poet. So Kansas City knows me as Nicole Clay. My performance and pen name is Nikki Skies. And just where I've performed, I've done the New Yorican. I've done the Green in Chicago. I've traveled a lot and performed. Now, when I was performing, okay, I'm getting ready to date myself, and that's fine. This was pre-slam. So
Yeah.
slam came into the picture when I really wanted to focus in on being an author. So I was pre-slam. So I was in the crowd where you had to recite a piece that stood ground and that everyone else knew. And then you earned your right to write and compose your pieces. Like you had to demonstrate to the elders in the community that you had a respect for the craft and you knew the shoulders that you were standing on. So this is pre-slam. So I used to, with my theater background, I really think that's what really, kind of took it over, because poets are calm and they read like this, but I had theater and poetry. I was all over the place. So when people really figured out that I was a performance poet and I really knew how to put these words together, that really got my ticket into a lot of places across the country. I opened for some amazing people. My absolute favorite, Sonia Sanchez, opening for her, who is the Madame, the Queen. And one of the best pieces of advice she told me, and I'll never forget it. I said, so what do you do when you have writer's block? And she said, writer's block? We don't get writer's block. You know what that is? Writer's block is when you don't want to tell the truth.
Mm.
And I thought, that is so true.
Mm.
When I'm writing something, I want to make it pretty. I want to make it strong. I want to make it empowering. And then I stop when that ugly thought comes through or that vulnerability comes through.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, she's so right. And then when I went back and just reread her writings through the lens of that, I saw the good, I saw the stinky, I saw the ugly, and I thought that's the kind of poet I want to be.
Wow.
But yeah, I've performed a lot of places.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. And to trace back something that you can give us from Sonia Sanchez, like, ooh, what a gem. That I remember being in these audiences and hearing gems. Like I got to see Amiri Baraka,
Yeah.
that you said was on your list, and he came to UMKC, and I was fortunate enough to know what that meant and make sure to be there. And it just stays with me so much that it's unbelievable that I tell other people about that all the time and expect them to know what it means. But then I have to really help them understand who Amiri Baraka is, because
Right.
sometimes not so much the person we studied in English class. It took a really amazing professor at UMKC that opened that door. I think I was 20 and heard about Amiri Baraka. So by 22, he was there on our campus, and I couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. So thank you so much for all this so far, and I think it's only going to continue. Can we sneak in a chance to hear a piece now that I think the audience is probably just pining for one, and we talked before to be sure that you were ready and had a piece that you thought this audience could dig. And so
Woo,
I'll just
yeah.
give you a transition to kind of deep breath and get ready. And then I'm just going to get out the way and be on mute. And then afterwards, let's get back and talk about anything you want to. I don't necessarily want you to explain your piece, because I think sometimes that's not the goal of the artist after they perform. But anything that you could kind of unpack a little bit that a young writer might start to understand from what you tell them about your piece, like how you got into it or how you knew to write it or something to that effect. I think that'd be awesome for young writers out there. So let me stop and just get you going here. Everybody, this is Nikki Skies, or as we know her in Kansas City, Nikki Clay.
Okay, this piece is entitled Like Moses. It's been a while, so I'm going to read it from the page. Garnered with the same light as you and I, no bargaining, told the Pharaoh, let my people go. And the people believed it. So hundreds of thousands without questions followed him into a sea that parted because that was the only way out, and they had to go. Now that's a man's man, a woman's man, garnered with the same light as you and I, heirs of independent thinking, clever thieves and never caught pocket pickers, accepting suffering now for a joyous tomorrow, just waiting for Jesus to come. Gonna be shocked when Jesus come back black, wearing an X hat, the revolutionary, telling you to meet him on the post of the field where the dirt spits kits from Harriet and Nat, who both so simply saw it written in the sky. Dust molding uprising souls, garnered with the same light and infinite gifts to prophesize tomorrow and write today, to love the right for freedom for its own sake, redefining love so it's necessary, redefining love so love is necessary, like the careful measures of cornbread, all of self, every bit of righteousness, nothing short of surrender. Your breath becomes harmonious hymns with every intake between dawns and sunsets, the pennies in your pocket spent wisely, listening to people speak, knowing whose food to eat and when to fast. This is the same light for you and I. Nothing outside of ourselves we need to wait for. Your book, my book, Corinthians and Ruth. You write the music, strike the organ keys, No lessons needed. Take truth to the head and pour out attachments. Break bread, not with dough makers, but with farmers of wheat fields. See, claim your abundance. Batter your lessons, spicy or sweet for others to feast with mad respect. Save your laughter and go spread the word and run to them. Running, aimful with enjoyment like children on the playground, like messiahs to one day be admired. Guarded with the same light as you and I, like it or love it, or yearn it and loathe it. For the soft-toed souls and those living on their knees, excuse us as us poets walk into the sea. And that's that piece.
My gosh, I love it. I love it. And I love how you know that last line. You're ready for us to be ready for it. And that's the last line is something, man. Wow. Beautiful piece. Thank you so much for sharing that. When we do these conversations with people, I think I can imagine people rewinding those parts the most. And I think that's the part that school kind of thrives on again. So I could see this becoming a lesson or something that someone, again, features in their classroom or has a discussion about that piece after it happens. We're honored to have a chance to do that with the poet herself right now. So could you cast us a little insight into your process at least? Or, I like the reverence of not discussing one interpretation of art, but leaving it to the audience sometimes. But
Right.
as we have you here today, tell us anything you want to about that piece.
Yes, that piece, for me, it serves balance. It serves as everyone's word is valuable, and everyone comes with an even playing ground as writers. Like you said, it is definitely up to everyone's interpretation. To me, that piece just serves as a reminder for me that not everyone's going to get it, but that doesn't make it less powerful. That doesn't make my words less meaningful. They are, and that's what that piece is totally about. And I wanted to bring in the reverence of Moses, and I brought in Harriet, and I brought in Nat Turner, because all of those are important, and so are poets. And if you're not ready for a poet, then at the end it says, for those with the soft-toed shoes that's living on their knees, get out of our way and let us poets walk into the sea. So that's what that piece is about for me.
Oh, I love that. And I can hear kind of the reverence and honor paid back to even like the way Sanchez and you were talking about being real and authentic and raw and writer's block. There was no block in that message whatsoever. Right?
Thank
And
you.
it's so fantastic that it's been a while since I've been graced by poems every Friday in my classroom but it's just so, it is a religious moment when you re-stir in yourself some of the things that you may not, unless you do that, unless you sit and listen and be present and digest and take things in. So I am a preacher's son. That's a fun thing that has always been part of me, whether I wanted it to be or not. And
Right.
so I go back to that place when I listen, and I oh my gosh, so wonderful to hear that and to know that we recorded it and other people will also. So let's unfortunately bring this thing to a wrap, and we could talk forever. I would love to. But the thing that we might go out thinking about from your vantage point would be those young people out there and what you could say to them in this moment in our world, in this moment in their lives, that they might need to hear most, or that you needed to hear yourself, remembering and reflecting, that really helped you get where you are today, or any trade secrets or path reminders of what to do along the way. So it's been an honor and a great moment for me too to get to talk to you today. But let me make sure I don't say the last thing. So guys, this has been KCPS Homeroom, and we're talking to Nikki Clay, also known as Nikki Skies in the performance world out there. And this is just me handing it over to her so she can send us out for this morning.
Okay, so for all of the students in Kansas City Public Schools that are listening to this, I dare you to pick up 2 books. I dare you to just pick up 2 books and abandon yourself and live in that world. And I dare you to dream, and I dare you to imagine. And once you come out of that world, explore what it was in those words that let you be free. Because honestly, that is what has happened in my life, and that is what has built and developed my career. It's understanding the magic of words, understanding when you connect them together, it's something that happens when you piece words together. It takes you to the next step. It takes you to next month. It takes you to the next dream. So I don't know where your local library is. I know I would hop the bus and go to Lucille Bluford. And I would sit in the aisles where they had the African American writers. And I would just pull the books down and I would read. And they let me, and they knew I would come in. I don't want you to do this, but the librarians knew that I would come in with a sandwich in my bag. And literally, I would take the bus to the library and I would read all these words. And here's the thing, I didn't understand the majority of it, but later on down the line, it all served me. Because here were these people writing words that were about me. They were about me being a dreamer. For anyone out there that is an artist, that wants to write, that wants to be a director, that wants to be a poet, it is so possible. It is, but you have to be your #1 hero, and you have to have a command for the language that can intimidate people and not knock you down. So I just challenge everyone, even if there are adults who are teachers and think, oh, I don't think this is for me, then I challenge you to pick up 2 books and abandon yourself and get in those words and then figure out what it was about those words that moved you. And then you move other people with words as well. But I love Kansas City. I would love to come back. I would love to do something else like this. Kansas City, I'm here. Mary Harmon Weeks, Missouri, 3 Trails, Lincoln. I'm Kansas City. So I would love to come and do workshops. I would love to come back and serve in some type of capacity. But those are my words of wisdom. I'm from those streets, 43rd and Bells. I'm from those streets, down the street from Martin Street. Cobras used to be up on 43rd, and they come down. I mean, that's my hood. That's where I am. So thank you so much for having me, Mr. Odom, and please have me back.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. Okay, well, we're going to call it a good day now. And so I hope you started here with us today, and you're going to go off and find 2 books and start thinking about immersing yourself in them, and the wonderful, wonderful advice and the great performance from our wonderful guest today. So thank you again, Nikki Clay. And good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to another episode of KCPS Homeroom. A while back, we started interviewing people who are products of this district. One idea I might have had alongside of some of our time during COVID was to reach out on social media and say, hey, what's going on? Where have you gone with your life? Would you like to come on TV, sort of, and talk about it? So we're here on 38 The Spot this morning, and we're joined by Brianna Piercy, a student from Paseo Academy who graduated in 2012, representing. We've had lots of years represented in this little show we've been doing. I think as far back as like 03. I started teaching in 01, so really fun to trace some of these steps. Brianna's here this morning to tell us a little bit about her path and how she found it, and really just anything else she wants to share that might be welling in her after all these years. And it's exciting to check back in and say, how's it going? But it's also just, it's humbling, and it's amazing to find out the success that people then find after they leave your classroom a long time ago. So, Brianna, bring us up to speed. What you've been doing since high school?
All right. Well, since high school, like right now, currently, I am a sales support representative for UPS. So right now, I'm working with all like the mass shipments and stuff going on, making sure I design all the chassis for it and their presentations, making sure the brand support is flowing right. Post high school, right after I graduated, I took the college route. I went ahead and pursued to get my bachelor's at University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg. I originally, I got my bachelor's and I was starting in psychology and criminal justice. I was double majoring. The reason I did that is because I was so fascinated with criminal minds my senior year of high school, and I was like, I could do that. It's a breakaway from the arts because Cassell was a performing arts, and I've been doing that all my life since a toddler. I wanted to take a break from it. I wanted to try a different route, do something new. And I was so fascinated with the world of psychology and the study of the mind. And I wanted to focus on helping understanding the mind of a criminal, because I had a lot of friends, a lot of relatives who were criminals, who were involved in that lifestyle, and I wanted to better understand them, like, why did you do what you did? Are you misunderstood, or while society is labeling you as a delinquent, etc. So yeah, that's why I went into being a criminologist, but I got bored with it in school.
Sure, paths change. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what came next?
I went ahead and got back into because I on the side extracurricular stuff, like I was doing like acting in plays or anything, kind of get back into my creative side. Like no matter what, I could never escape it. So I began to refine, my love and my passion for it. So I changed my major again. Literally at the end of my sophomore year of college, all my advisors were tripping, wigging out. They're like, "You're about to get into your senior year. Why would you do this?" I'm like, "It's my life. I want to do it." So I switched over to digital media production. And I then switched it from digital media production to public relations and double majored in business admin. The reason I did it is simply because I allowed professors to cap off my goals of what I can reach, my limits or anything. I let them, kind of direct me and tell me what was attainable and what wasn't. And I figured, hey, they know what they're talking about. They've been down that route. I should listen to them. So changed my whole major. And here I am in public relations. I'm literally like, I realized the different umbrellas underneath public relations and the umbrella itself that is under communication. And I can get into digital. I can get into sports and education. Discovering all those routes, I stuck with it. Graduated in 2016. Nice. And right before I was getting ready to head off to Atlanta, Georgia, to Clark Atlanta to get my master's. And my family was struggling. So I felt guilty. And no matter how hard I worked, beyond getting accepted, I redirected all my plans to come back home to KC. And I began looking for internships. I mean, like every day in between classes, I'm literally driving from Warrensburg to Kansas City, interviewing, virtual in between, eating. It was real dramatic, but I didn't get the big girl job that I wanted, that dream job. Didn't get it. Real discouraging. hit a real rough patch coming home. Goodness. And right before I gave up on everything, and I got a call, email, then a call. It was from this big company that was needing help within the marketing and public relations sector of their business. They were into remodeling and construction. They were based out of like Australia, and they were basically moving from like the Chicago East Coast, and they were trying to expand more west. And they see my profile on LinkedIn. Glad I did it.
Yeah. Wow.
And they reached out to me and flew me up to Chicago the next day. Never been to Chicago a day in my life.
Yeah,
Didn't know
Chicago's
anything
great.
about the loop, nothing.
It's a great place.
Yeah. And it's an amazing place. I was so broke, and I figured it out though. I was just like, if talking to my friends and feeling like, hey, if you just spot me like 10, 20 bucks, I think this is gonna work out. I got you when I get my first check or something. Went down there. I'm in the financial district. Once I figured out the train system down there in the financial district, and I'm on LaSalle Avenue in Chicago, I'm looking up like, what did I just get myself into? I go into this big fancy building, make it up to the 22nd floor, I believe. And I met I didn't know they were the big bosses, but I met them, and they sat me down, and they're all intimidating. I'm just like, yeah, I didn't get this job. But nice trip though, thanks. But I couldn't even get on the train before I left Chicago. I got the call that I got the job.
Wow.
Traveling back and forth, all the perks, stuff that I've never experienced before in life. And that was a pivotal moment for me, postgraduate of, college and stuff. So
Fantastic. Beautiful job telling the story too. Like, it's just, I remember, you got this narrative ability and this storyteller side and this creative but that was really cool. Like you took us there really well. And it leads me to kind of want to, poke in there and say, like, what was school doing for you before? Like, I'm guessing that school wasn't challenging enough for you. Or I don't know, like I only knew you for a couple years or so in there. But like I knew you had far more potential and power than school would be making use of, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
In the moment, in things. And what I'm hearing you say is how much drive and power, like your professors couldn't even put you in a box and decide where you were going to end up, and that you might have grown disillusioned, but then, and it's still there. And it's like all that putting yourself out there and all that chance taking, that so reminds me of you. And I'm so excited to hear that that's really the way you found it works. You just don't give up and you just keep going, So if you were trying to remember you as an 11th grader, a 12th grader, did you see it that way then? Or what was it that finally clicked or something, I don't mean finally, but that might have clicked in a moment or two, that it didn't seem that way before, that really gave you some clarity that you could help some other people have that might be watching today?
Yes. Don't ever let anyone. It's okay. Honestly, it's great to get advice from others. It's great to hear their story and the ins and outs, the do and don'ts of what they did. But don't ever, 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 ever let anyone tell you what isn't or is attainable. It changes by the individual. For starters, the clarifying moment for me was how I felt. And people that were older than me, or that I met in the past, like in a minute moment, didn't even think twice about it. They came back and they tell me an impact that I made on their life just based on when I was in the roughest moment of my life and we were just merely having a conversation. That's when I'm just like, oh, I get it. it was the moment that I don't go through my hardships for myself, but for the testimony of someone else. Like that testimony alone helps someone else along the line. I never knew what exactly I wanted to. I just knew I wanted to help people. You know, I wanted to, as long as I can once I get that feeling, I know it's right. That's it. But I never, honestly, I didn't look at school as doing it for me. I didn't think we could afford it. Even like in high school, I was just good at school. You know, I was just good at it. I could do the work.
Yeah, people were like learning about the arts, and you were rolling, you know, like, and so like I guess I didn't know that in your childhood you'd had so much of that experience or your background. Like for me, I was always the preacher's kid, so I was always used to public speaking, you know, like
yeah.
And so it's neat that you start to notice that in each other earlier, you know, and then later in life, it's still there. You know, it's like, so that's so awesome. And I love that you're getting to utilize that skill, you know, as part of your career and yourself. You know, I get to do it too. It's really, really delightful. That I knew I was practicing this for some reason, you know, or right. I knew eventually there'd be an audience, or I knew eventually I'd have a lot more to say, you know, and it's just really cool. So I can only imagine how powerful you'll be in another 10 years or another 5 years. Or let's go out on this note then. You've done some amazing and inspiring ability just in telling your story, but I'm still kind of trying to get to that student who still doesn't see what school is for, right? What is it for? Like in you know, I know it's for lots of stuff. I couldn't say it's just for book learning, that's for sure. It's got that component, but I was never the educator who thought that's the only thing we're doing here. So what else do you think education is there for?
Education is there to put one back in touch with just heart. Home is where the heart is. And I really feel like the institution, when it has the type of, how can I put it? Because I can't speak for other folks' schools, you know, I can only speak for Purcell and the culture there and the inspiration that I got from there, you know, the dynamic. It was way beyond just what was in the textbook or what was on the curriculum. It was more so getting me back in touch with my creativity, challenging me in ways to pull that leader out of me, you know, to produce arts in multiple ways like I didn't know that I was capable of. That's what school was a clarifying platform for me. It opened my eyes to different avenues that I thought were just capped off to me, you know, but that's what school did for me. It got me back in tune with my true self. And hopefully to figure out my purpose here, you know, in this big world.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I will say that the people who I've reached out to, that's something a lot of them have in common is, and I don't know, I guess I'm in love with that, whatever the word is for it, is that people are finding themselves. Were you around with Corwin Albers? I don't think so. Yeah. Oh man, I did an interview with him. He's a computer programmer guy now and does all this crazy language that no one would ever know. And he's found he runs 3 or 4 people who work under him now. And we had that same talk. He jumped straight into college. He wasn't quite sure why, you know, but wasn't going to let himself not do that, at least give it a shot. And he really caught fire in a lot of the same ways. So exciting. I think if there's anything to this, KCPS students who are listening or anybody else in Kansas City, don't feel like the limits that are perceived are really so much in other people as much as they maybe just right in your own head is also. And I love hearing Brianna tell us that they're also coming out of the professors and they're also coming out of the people who interact with us every day. But then find another environment where someone doesn't see you that way and get involved in it as much as you can, right? Because it's so important. And people don't always see people with limitless opportunity. It's really crummy It's the views that people and their biases that go so deep, but we're finding it to be so much more true. You know, when you watch social media and you hear the pure stupidity come out of some people's mouths about skills and abilities, and you know, it's just ridiculous. So I don't know, we opened that can. Do you want to comment on anything like that of what's going on in our world right now and what has been reflected in our news, and we need to still make so much progress?
I really feel like this is the time where it's really time to get active. We know what was done in the past. I'm all for strategizing. Now it's time to implement and execute. You know, it's time to just really get on the forefront. You know, you got to this is what's going on in the world today cannot be swept under the rug. We cannot continue to turn a cheek to it. Honestly, that's how I feel what's going on now. Now that I feel like I'm in a position to make change now, you know, I can't do it by myself, you know, I know others out there that have the knowledge I have, that have the experience I have, and see what's going on around them. Is it getting any better? You know, it's really time to just really get together and execute. It's time to act on it. No more talking. That's how I feel about what's going on in the world now.
I'm all there. That's one reason I felt kind of compelled to try to do these interviews, or at least to reach back out and use my platform for some value, so that students could hear stories that they may not hear when they hear other people look for stories, right? Yeah. So when the media is looking for stories, I don't know that they're knocking on your door about your unbelievable success or telling that story very well. So it's our job for sure to introduce students the mirrors and windows of their lives. If they don't see themselves back into the story, reflected back in the people that we hear and talk about every day, then there's no sense of this change in our own beliefs. And I think that's where we can't wait to make those awarenesses happen. It's got to happen for our students so that they can know, you know, you can rock it out there in the world. It's going to take unbelievable drive that you demonstrate here and tell that fantastically. So this has been a great additional interview with a student that I, again, just am no longer calling a student, but will always be someone I appreciated from the past. And the crazy part is the past doesn't just stop there. The students keep going and keep growing. So Brianna, it's really been fun to check in with you. I'm impressed with you like I was back then, and wish you continued success. If you want to get more involved in KCPS students' lives or have in some interaction there, that's what I'm thinking, you know, we could certainly do. I also want to do another callback with everybody once we can all be in person and have the people who I interviewed all come together, and also maybe do a show. And I would propose it would be called Coffee House Reheated.
Yeah,
right?
I'm feeling it.
That's my idea. And I want to get sponsors. I want to do it on 18th and Vine at the gym. So if anybody's watching this that thinks that sounds like a cool idea, hit me up. I work for KCPS. My name's on here, Chris Odom. So again, it's been wonderful. Thank you again, Brianna Piercy. Shout out to all Kansas City. Keep watching these shows. Send them to a friend. These will be on the YouTube channel, and they're also going to be featured on 38 The Spot. So thanks again. Have a wonderful day, everybody in Kansas City.
Thank you, Mr. Odom, and thank you to all the other instructors today. They all will be back next Friday with our next episode of Real World Learning. KCPS Homeroom will be back on Monday at 8 a.m. right here on 38 The Spot with class for our pre-K and kindergarten students. Thank you all for joining us this week. Have a great day, and remember, continue learning throughout the day.
they will teach you anything, even if that's not their subject. After school, you can always go to them and ask, oh, can you help me on this problem? I really don't understand it. And if like you're feeling down, I'll always be here. And there's other people because there's a lot of people that are nice, even if they're not in your grade, they'll still talk to you.
There's so much diversity, and even though there's a lot of diversity, everyone is kind to each other, and the teachers are still kind to us too.
Well, one of my vice principal helped me do math. I didn't used to know really math. She told me that if I try math hard, I'll get it. And then I told her I can't. She said I will, and then I tried to cry it out. I told her I can't. And she said she teach me. I listened to her. I told her I can't, and then she said you can do this. And then I said okay. And then I tried it, and it was really fun. I really like math now. I'm trying to be a math teacher. I want to be a tutor.
Teachers, they help us to be a good student because they can help you through life and they can teach you lots of things.
I was struggling with one of my math work, and I told my teacher about it. She was like, "You don't give up." And then I tried. It was kind of hard, so I went to, and then the teacher made a morning meeting where we go to her meeting, and she helped us out with whatever we need help with.
I'll tell them to try something they never do. I'll prove them the school is better for them, just for the future. I want them to see how it is about school. I want them to feel good about school.
It's a really amazing school, and it's probably the best school that anyone would go to.
My teacher is Miss Cunningham, and one thing that I like about Miss Cunningham is that she helps me. She helps me through math, even though I'm really hard at it, and she helps me through everything that I've been through this week.
You will learn a lot in a day here, and then we might go over it, but that's the best part, for you can know everything about it. So we'll go over it, and if you don't understand it, we'll go over it again.